top stories, Ethiopia calls for an immediate end of unilateral commission of inquiry process. Process, while Sigrid Kaag said her country is ready to share its technical experience in this regard.
It's now up to Egypt to come on board and agree with us that we are going to share these waters.
So Ethiopia is basically saying, rain falls onto the ground, forms a river, we just want to use it to generate power.
You people have got rain, this is why the British say, you people in the tropics, you have got rainwater, so you don't need the river water. Of course, we have now rejected this.
Some countries rely on this water more than others, or are thinking about it more than others. But that does not give them any more right on the use of this water than others. The colonial agreements cannot be accepted as valid anymore.
ህዳሴ ዛሬም በተለያየ መንገድ የሚደረግ ማንኛውም የቅኝ ግዛት እሳቢዎችን የማናስተናግድ በአፍሪካ ነፃ የሆነች ሀገር ብቻ ሳይሆን በአፍሪካ ነፃ ሆና የምትቀጥል ሀገር መሆኗን የምናረጋግጥበት ፕሮጀክት ነው።
The Ethiopian Federal Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs denounced the statement made by Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib, Sheikh of Al-Azhar Al-Sharif of Egypt, regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The Mufti, Haji Omar Idris, head of the Ethiopian Federal Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, said the waters of the Nile stem from the heart of Ethiopia, noting that Ethiopia has the right to benefit from its natural resources without causing significant harm to the Nile Basin countries in general. This came in a statement made by the Council to the media today to refute the statement of Sheikh Al-Azhar on the GERD, as the statement did not take into account the rights of the Ethiopian people. The head of the Supreme Council stressed that Ethiopia did not prevent Egypt and Sudan from benefiting from the Nile waters. Rather, he said, it demanded to utilize the river in an equitable manner, and this is pure justice. The Mufti said the Sheikh of Al-Azhar should look at the truth and be aware of the resolution of Ethiopians to get rid of poverty and stand firm in the sound decisions of the Ethiopian government in this regard. And we must not make mistakes, said the Mufti. God helps the people of truth every time and place. The Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs urges the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to immediately cease the process it launched to investigate alleged violations of human rights and humanitarian law in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. In a statement it issued on Thursday, the ministry disdains the Commission's unilateral announcement to establish a quote-unquote commission of inquiry irrespective of mutual agreements. Solomon Daniel looks into the statement.
The Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs Thursday called on the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to cease the process it launched unilaterally to establish a commission of inquiry to investigate alleged human rights violations in the state of Tigray. The ministry recalled that the government of Ethiopia, during the meeting of the African Peace and Security Council held on 9 March 2021 at the heads of state and government level, has clearly expressed its willingness to engage the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to conduct a joint investigation into alleged human rights violations in the Tigray region of Ethiopia during the law enforcement operation. To that effect, the ministry said, the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Ethiopia held a follow-up discussion with the chairperson of the African Union Commission on the way forward on 11 March 2021, in line with the political guidance from the chairperson of the AU Peace and Security Council. Accordingly, the chairperson of the African Union Commission released a statement on the same day appreciating Ethiopia's initiative and underlining the importance of engaging the AU treaty bodies. Furthermore, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights has written a letter addressed to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia accepting the proposal for a joint investigation. In response, the government of Ethiopia has written back to the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, commending in its interest to engage and designating a focal institution, the statement indicated. It is, however, regrettable to note that the African Commission on Human and People's Rights made a unilateral announcement on the establishment of a commission of inquiry which is completely outside the scope of the invitation by the government and lacks legal basis, the ministry said. While the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia was engaged in good faith to facilitate the necessary conditions for the joint investigation, the unilateral announcement of the Commission on establishing a commission of inquiry undermines the cooperative spirit and the ongoing efforts of the government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia to formalize the modalities of the stated investigation. It is also inconsistent with the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, as well as the rules of procedure of the Commission itself, the statement underlined. The African Commission on Human and People's Rights, as an African Union institution, has an obligation to engage with member states in constructive and principled partnership. It still has the opportunity to rectify this unfortunate and unhelpful step and engage in good faith in a joint investigation which it has already accepted. Such unhelpful actions by the Commission will not advance the promotion and protection of human and people's rights in the continent and will rather undermine mutual confidence with member states. By choosing to proceed in such a misguided direction, the Commission will only defeat the very purpose it is established for. The government of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia reiterates its readiness and once again calls upon the African Commission on Human and People's Rights to immediately cease the process it launched, which is not acknowledged by Ethiopia, and engage with relevant authorities in Ethiopia to finalize the modalities regarding the proposed investigation. That statement concludes.
As the 6th general election is fast approaching, scholars call for active participation in the election and acceptance of its outcome. Ayele Bakri exclusively told ETV English that all political parties and the general public have the duty to prioritize the country's national agenda, whatever the outcome of the election might be. Alula Teklamariam reports.
Ethiopians are left with only 3 days to cast a vote in the 6th general election to be held on the coming Monday. Scholars are thus calling for active participation in the election and accept the outcome of the election, citing the need to prioritize national agenda.
You see, now at the moment, we have about what? 40 plus parties, right? They've agreed, despite all the limitations, restrictions, and so on and so forth, they agreed to participate because they took the interest of the nation first. And I think the same kind of attitude should prevail in the post-election time. Okay? Regardless, the outcome should be accepted by them. And then whatever limitations we have, we should work on them so that the next election would be much more democratic, much more participatory, and much more transparent.
Ayele further reflected his overview regarding this year's election process compared to the previous ones.
The outcome wouldn't be as perfectly democratic as you expect, but this is a beginning. This is the point, this is a beginning. So therefore, even that, they are trying to stop it. They are trying to stop it by kind of calling for national dialogue, national reconciliation first, and then creating transitional government. We cannot go back to transitional. See, the moment you kind of agree to transitional government, what it means is that you would give them a chance to directly get involved and decide who should lead this country and who shouldn't. And so in that way, it will go back to them, you know, the whole control factor. So therefore, I see the election as a good start. It's a process. So in the long run, perhaps in the next election, you don't wait for 2 months and start campaigning. You campaign from day one for the 5-year period. You know, you make sure that you introduce yourself to the people so that people really know you, and not just like 2 months. So therefore, it has its limitations, but it is a good start, and in that way, I think we should support it.
The 6th general election will be conducted on the coming Monday, 21st June 2021, in different parts of the country.
In an exclusive interview with ETV English, Ethiopian Human Rights Commission strategic advisor Rakib Mesele said the Commission has been undertaking various efforts to ensure human rights issues, making progress and on commitment for human rights values, avoid all forms of violence and protection of vulnerable groups during the 6th general elections. Take a listen to her.
So we will have a roving monitoring team dispatched throughout the country where the election is expected to take place. And this roving teams will be talking to voters, election officials, security officers, political parties, etc., to get as much as information as possible to analyze the situation and make recommendation whenever we think there are human rights violation or potential human rights violation. And in addition to the roving teams that we will dispatch throughout the country, we will also have a hotline, 7307, where we will collect information, complaints from individuals, and then we will send the nearest roving team to collect the information to verify whether the complaints and information that we got through the hotline is factual, so that we contact the necessary duty bearer to take action.
According to Rakib, the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission is ready to improve the human rights situations of both vulnerable communities as well as the Ethiopian population in general whenever there are violations.
So to facilitate the fruitful conduct of our work, so that human rights is promoted and protected during the electoral process, we seek the support and due attention by all duty bearers and stakeholders involved in the electoral process to provide support and also assistance in conducting our work. Because this is a major event for the country, where not only people are exercising their human right during the electoral process, but this is a means for a better democratic and human rights environment in the country. So we seek the support of all involved to make our work fruitful and successful.
The Human Rights Commission strategic advisor also underscored that Human Rights Commission should be undertaking activities to help ensure fairness and credibility of the upcoming elections. Scholars underscore the need to properly harness women's accommodative nature as part of the move to make the upcoming election peaceful. This was disclosed at the platform Hawassa University hosted, dwelling on women's role in ensuring peace at elections. Demis Mekrea has more from ENA.
The role of women in helping conduct peaceful election is obviously unquestionable. And this was exactly what the discussion platform hosted by Hawassa University dwelt on. The discussion has particularly shed the spotlight on women's innate accommodative character that can contribute a lot to make the few days await national election peaceful. Hawassa University Women, Youth and Children Affairs head Mret Genene has called on fellow citizens to tackle any possible threats that may target to stumble on the balloting process.
በተለያዩ አካባቢዎች በተለያዩ ምክንያቶች ምርጫው ሰላማዊ እንዳይሆን
There may be attempts to put a stumbling block to the election process, thereby causing a conflict. In such cases, women have to be proactive and have to play their role both in early warning and prevent any misbehavior.
Addis Ababa University Peace and Security Institute head Jonas Adayi underscores that the current situation in Ethiopia needs the inclusive effort of all citizens in general and the active engagement of women in particular. He consequently called on women to take the lion's share in the effort to conduct peaceful national election, which is expected to be held just in a few days' time.
Women are the most vulnerable and prime targets of the society in the absence of peace. But they have an accommodative character which is central to ensuring peace. We need to harness that, and women themselves need to understand that too.
During the event, it was stressed that women will have a double responsibility, both in terms of actively participating in the balloting and ensuring peaceful process.
Welcome back. Two artifacts that were taken during colonial era looting by British forces in Ethiopia have been withdrawn from auction after the Ethiopian government appealed to the auction house selling the items to quote-unquote stop the cycle of dispossession. The withdrawn items are a leather-bound Coptic Bible and a set of horn beakers from a sale today after the Ethiopian embassy in London discovered the items, which were taken during the Battle of Magdala in 1868 and wrote to the auction house. In a letter, the embassy said the return of the items would help bring to a close a painful chapter of the nation's history. In the government's view, the auctioning of these items is at best unethical and at worst the continuation of a cycle of dispossession perpetrated by those who would seek to benefit from the spoils of war. To stories from across our continent, Tunisia is proposing to partner with the World Health Organization to start local production of vaccines. Prime Minister Hichem Mechichi said his country has received only 1.6 million COVID-19 vaccines out of the 2.5 million hoped for by March by the WHO-led COVAX initiative. Goshu Meliso has more from CGTN Africa.
Hichem appealed to the health body at a meeting in Geneva to speed up vaccine provision in order to accelerate the vaccination rollout in North African countries.
Inequalities in vaccine distribution between industrialized and developing countries is alarming. The result is that some countries are resuming normal life thanks to the vaccine rollout, while other countries like Tunisia, which is facing big economic difficulties, is still taking restrictive measures which deepen the socio-economic crisis and further paralyze the economy.
The Director General of the World Health Organization said WHO is willing to dispatch a team of experts to Tunisia in order to evaluate the country's readiness for COVID-19 vaccine production.
Tunisia is proposing that to partner with WHO to start local production, and we have agreed to for our teams to work together, and whenever Prime Minister is ready, we can send a team to Tunisia that specialize experts on local production to help Tunisia.
Following a meeting with the Tunisian Prime Minister, the Director General of the World Trade Organization declared that it supports Tunisia's quest for local vaccine production.
We have discussed how to help with the production of vaccines in Tunisia, because Tunisia has the ecosystem and the competencies to produce it. It's quite complicated. We've had the head of the Pasteur Institute in Tunis who's explained the whole ecosystem. The WTO is following up with the WHO on the whole vaccine production chain and looking for ways to facilitate this operation in Tunisia.
Tunisia